their all. Just massive Bundy splashes in the corner for 5 without their leg in the ropes. Moderated by Eddie Reds and Rob the Slob Bellamy. Let's talk about Rob the Slob Bellamy right now. I'd say cut the music, almost in the flair of one Rick Rude, and say, Rob Bellamy, you're running opposite me right now, you piece of cantaloupe crap. Because of this, sir, running opposite of me on a show that you helped run, and you put Psycho Sid on there and just try to like hurt the sweetness of Ed Bratz.
Dude, trying to crush our ratings.
I'm going to have to challenge him right now to a 15-foot-high steel cage with butter on the ropes.
I like it.
And no tights. Yep. And what else can we raise the stakes? Alligator in the ring match. That's
unbelievable.
It right there.
Wait, is Rob? Is he on the A.V. Klein list now?
Not quite. That dude's he's a
right.
herb. He stole my gimmick. He stole my thunder. At Klein,
and he stood us up.
Coming to get you, Herb. And then he wants to post stuff on our page advertising this.
Right.
Come on.
Right. After standing us up to come on the show.
Herb. He stands us up. He does a no show on the show. And then he says, oh, but can you put up advertisements for our show? Come on, Herb. What the hell, dude?
Absolutely incredible.
Man.
Well, Kenny, welcome back, man. We've missed you. It's been
how
like
you doing?
2 months, dude. It's been like a long time.
I know it. I wonder if people could hear me singing during the credits. Could you hear me?
I heard you a little bit. Yeah, I barely heard you. No, it's not for sale.
Ed, you have a Cherry Funk LJ? I have one, and it's also not for sale. Go to eBay, brother.
yeah, exactly.
Yes. You know what? I made a custom Mattel of that as well. I made a custom, not Mattel, not Mattel, the other one. Jax. I made a pretty sweet custom Jax, and there was a company that you could go to order clothes called, what the hell are they called? It's like Dude's Clothing. I forget the name of it, but you can order clothes for your action figures. It's probably the nerdiest crap that you could ever do, but I did it a few times. I got some sweet clothes for my. I don't take fig baths though. Do you know what that is? That's when they get in the actual bathtub and they wash the figures. I think Zack Ryder did that a couple of times live.
I've done that.
Bath. If I did, I probably would do it with like a Bundy figure or like maybe the Andre the Giant figure. But if you have done it, can you tell us which one you took the bath with right now?
I didn't take the bath with them. I bought a collection and I ran the bathtub and I put all the figures in there and then I washed them. I washed them like they were my kids.
So you hopped in with them and scrubbed them down.
That's what you do when you're trying to.
What body part did you use as a loofah?
Right. So,
yes.
What's been going on, man? Anything good? Anything in your world?
I'm starting to write again. I mean, last year,
nice.
I didn't want to write. I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody else wanted to. And still, I don't even. I'm working on Just Incredible's books, his book right now, and he don't really want to write it either right now. But I can't blame him because neither did I. We were both kind of like, we'll get back to it eventually.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm also doing Bruce Pitchford's book, but his reason for not doing it is obvious. I mean, he went back into action. You know what I mean? Right. He's back into war. He's back into combat. He's back into Raw as war, I guess. If you hear some noise in the background, it's my dog.
Well, speaking of Raw, I saw that one of our guests who couldn't come on the show is now with AEW.
Yes. That was a big show. He was supposed to be. He couldn't make it. They told him not to.
Yeah.
But I know he wasn't blowing us off. They just told him not to.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising to see him go over there, though.
And actually, I got that along with Pete Bregman. I have the line Blood Time Stories, the coloring books. And we have Sabu versus the Three Pigs. And we have Cactus Jack and the Beanstalk. Idea is that the wrestlers, take on the fairy tale role. And also spoof other kind of kids' stories. Like we have Demolition on Mars, which is sort of like the the old sci-fi comics. So I write to Paul White. I said to him, I texted to him, and I said to him, hey, what you think about doing a book? You want to do an autobiography? And he's like, I don't know if I ever want to do a book, brother. He's like, but he's like, never say never. And he's like, and I'll consider you though for it. He's like, but I'm just kind of not ready yet because I have another chapter coming. This is the same thing that Jeff Jarrett told me. I don't know if it's a nice letdown or if there are some guys out there that have been around a long time but feel like they still have that last chapter to go. So they're not quite done and ready to do this yet. My advice would be to, still hit them with merch while you're in the spotlight because you'll sell more. But I can understand that perspective that they have. So I said to him, well, what do you think about doing a coloring book? And I said, I've got Sabu and the Three Little Pigs, and I've got Cactus Jack and the Beanstalk. What about Paul White and the Seven Dwarfs? And he popped. He loved it. So I don't know. It could happen. We started writing stuff back and forth, and he said, what do you think about like making a trilogy out of it? Maybe we could also add Paul White, like in a Gulliver Travels kind of sense too. So you have the other spectrum of it, and I don't know, could happen. He's going to want some merch soon, and he can have his own money now. He's not, held back by, WWE, maybe giving the guys 25 cents a shirt or whatever it was, a royalty. Now he can, make at least $8-9 a shirt probably off of ProWrestlingTees.com if you go that route, or if not, make their own shirts and sell them themselves and not have to split in corporate. So he may want a coloring book, which is easier to make than an autobiography. So.
Dude, what are they doing in WWE? Do they hate? Do they just want to like demolish the company?
I
just got something the other day saying that the network won't exist anymore.
Well, it will and it won't, right? So it's moving over to Peacock.
Right?
You're right.
Yeah,
it's Peacock. Sounds filthy. Like both syllables sound filthy. But anyways, it's going to Peacock, and I guess like down on the bottom, there'll be like a WWE portal, and you can go in there, and it's going to be the same cost as what I think subscribers pay now, or you'll get Peacock first, and then you get the other gimmick. But if you want to downgrade, you can even get access cheaper, so it'll be like $4.99, but then you'll have additional commercials and stuff like that. So
weird.
Yeah, I don't know. But here's the thing on that. I did a little research on that. I don't know if people realize this, but back in the day, most of the money made, most of the revenue for wrestling promotion came from tickets, live events, and some merchandise, right? Pay-per-views and stuff like that. But a lot of it was live. I mean, if you think about it now, music is the same way. Most artists make money off the live shows, and then the company keeps the money off of like the CDs or DVDs or music or whatever they're doing, right? But now WWE has their hands in corporate, and no longer do ticket sales matter even in the slightest, they say. They say, you probably heard this, but didn't know the rest of the puzzle. They may not go with live shows for a while. They're making money without having live shows. They make more money having it than they do actually collecting the ticket money. And the reason behind that is that the corporations involved, like CBS or NBC or whoever pays, or is it Fox, I meant to say, they pay WWE for the shows the same as you would pay Kevin James for King of Queens, or, or some, and that money that they receive is by far more than any tickets. So tickets is like, piddles. It's not worth them bothering with to sell tickets and do live shows, but then also pay for all of the expenses that go with that. So if I can get big corporate network money for my show, and that revenue is so much higher than tickets and everything else like that, you would gather that maybe the idea of the network now being sold is another means of a revenue source that's super high because it's a content provider, a content streamer that Peacock is going to pick up and provide, to their subscribers, and they're going to get X amount of dollars for that. So super easy. Vince says, I want X amount for Raw. I want X amount for SmackDown. And now I can get money also to show the old content from this stream and then sell that over to, license it over to Peacock. So all the revenue is coming from corporate money and paying for a TV show, almost like you would pay for a sitcom or a drama. Isn't that weird?
Yep,
no more tickets.
It's crazy.
So it's not even really part of the equation.
That almost makes me think that they're going to meet their demise because someone's a company could just come out and just tour. I mean, if I want to take my kids to go see wrestling, there's no option now.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they still probably will want to do that at some point if they can, and there's no problem to do it. Maybe they'll change the model to it. Who knows? Maybe they'll keep it one show with the the TV sets as the audience, and they'll have another show with real people there. The thing that bugs me with that, though, I mean, when you have to compete with like UFC, which is real, for some kind of fighting combat type sport, and then your audience is fake, and you have to like pipe sounds in of the fake audience, and then still try to compete with that realism or pretend it's real. And that's the move it goes in now. They try to make everything, all about just the wrestling. There's less storylines like you and I grow up with and stuff like that. So I kind of think that's the wrong direction to go in. I mean, for one, when you're watching it, the TVs don't sound like the cheering, and it's got to be piped in.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we know that they call it a sweetener or whatever like that, but I would imagine your avid fan or even like your passive fan is watching and going, geez, the TVs shouldn't sound like, it shouldn't sound like a real audience. It would sound weird. Wouldn't it sound kind of garbly and staticky, I would think?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
yeah, it's a terrible. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Whatever they're doing, it doesn't make any sense.
I get they're doing what they wanted, what they can do at this time. Everything's weird. I just kind of like the way that AEW did it, though. They just throw some people around, they're screaming and shouting. It feels a little bit more like, exciting than television's making sounds around the ring. But that's just me. Whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I'm old school, and I apologize for this. So
you should apologize for being old school.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well, we brought you. You're on tonight to talk about the Danny Davis book.
Yes,
which was an unbelievable book, which I posted on my Facebook.
Well, thank you. And I got to say, that's my most favorite of all my books. It was written differently than the other books. And
now, how long did that take you to write? Because it was a little bit shorter.
It was shorter. It still took 6-7 months.
Okay.
But the weird thing is I was writing that in between chapters of writing Beefcake's book. I was writing that at the same time.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. So, original idea, just to give you a little background on that, was Danny Davis came to me and wanted the book. I was a little skeptical at first because he's even more old school than I, and his concept, his vision of the book was to not have wrestling. He just really wanted to go over his growing up and pretty much lead up to the wrestling and maybe give a little update. And that was about it. But he didn't want to tell any behind the scenes locker kind of room chat. And I was like, oh, geez, I don't think fans will like that, So we kind of toyed around a little bit with how can we make this work. And I said, what if I wrote it more like a story with a beginning and a middle and an end, kind of like showing you overcoming obstacles and, really pull out the gritty stuff, focus on that, and then show how you made it through that. And he's like, yeah, this sounds good, Ken. Yeah, let's go with that. So we started doing the interviews. And what I would do is I would interview him, but I would look for the obstacles in the story and look to see, what it felt like and what he had to do to overcome that stuff and what kind of, consequences, if any, along the way. Because for those of you that know Dangerous Danny Davis, the one we're talking about, the Mr. X guy from was it WrestleMania 3 with the Hart Foundation and the whole deal. He grew up as a tough kid, almost like a gang and almost like a street fighter to some degree out in Boston, Massachusetts area. And he pretty much was like homeless for a long time, living outside of a single parent household because there was not even a bed in there for him. He slept in a basement someplace. Tough life. So we focus kind of on that, and I'm pretty proud of it. I like how it came out. I'm not sure all wrestling fans would be, but they weren't necessarily the total target demographic. The idea was to see if we could get kids to like it in high school. So we're still kind of pushing the book to see if we can make that happen. I don't have a huge following of high school readers, or it's not really in the right market like I'd like it to be. So we're working on trying to make that happen, and then maybe he can go and do some inspirational talks and give the books away to schools and stuff like that. That's the goal. We're not quite there yet, though.
When you were going through the process of writing the book with him, were you drilling down on stuff that he was telling you? Because a lot of it, I would think, would beg the question of going a little bit deeper and without trying to judge him. Because in the beginning of the book, I'm like, oh man, I didn't realize he was that type of a kid. But then you realize why he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah. So when you say drilling him, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like
were you like asking
him?
more in-depth questions? Were you like drilling down when he was telling you some stuff? Like, would you?
Yeah, and I had to do some research on some of that stuff too. Like he talked about a detention center he was in, and I looked up and I went through and I found like they had a chicken coop there and the kids had to run it, and it was almost like a punishment. They had to kind of run a little farm kind of gimmick, and people would come that owned the crop and stuff, and they would take it, and really the kids didn't get anything for it. It was pretty much just discipline and stuff like that. And I remember reading a guy's account from that, and I said to Danny, I said, oh yeah, I remember that, I forgot about that. Yeah, no, they made me do that and all, and it was really disgusting. There were rats, they had to hunt the rats, and there was chicken crap and nasty stuff all over the place. So it was neat to be able to read other people's accounts there and then ask him, and then he chime in, and I was able to get a better picture for it and able to write it. So I was able to really pull the grit and gore out of that section. So
is he a legit tough guy?
I think he definitely was. He's an older man now, but at the time, he was such a tough guy, I think, that they sent him for boxing lessons, right? So they sent him out to actually try his hand at boxing. Once he had been with WWF for a little while, they sent him out and told him to try his hand. He didn't do so bad, but I think he decided to stick with the wrestling just because taking a real shot over a fake shot and making around the same money, you're going to go with probably the fake. So, can I use that word here, fake? I don't know if I should use it. I don't know.
Well, when you talked about, because you told me, you're like, oh, this book's going to be different than the other books that I've written. I didn't see the difference, to be honest. It looked like, because like the Brutus book has, you talk about his childhood.
Yeah.
And same thing with Tito's book. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really see what the main, I guess there was probably a little less wrestling, but he talks about, being with the Heart Foundation and wrestling, right. Wrestling. So I loved it. I mean, I thought it was great.
Oh, thanks. I mean, when I did it, I tried to, how do I explain it? Well, for one, it's kind of, it's got some artsy stuff in it to try to cater to like a high school reader. There's symbolism in there intentionally in places to look for. There's color symbolism. There is different literary devices, flashbacks and different things, so that a teacher can talk about certain things, and teach it in an English class. I'm also an English teacher, so what I tried to do was work in maybe one bigger word a chapter, like that a kid wouldn't normally say. And like, I really went into the idea of, let's make this a high school type book, with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Typically a story follows something called Freytag's pyramid. And what it is you have like a starting point, and then it climbs. It reaches like a high point, a pinnacle, a climax, and then it comes down quickly and then ends. And that's what I tried to do in the book. I brought it all the ways up to the wrestling, and then he had a quick little bit of a fall. You see a little bit of the end of that, but then things kind of level off and stuff is okay now. Right. That's a very typical pattern in books. Some people break it, and then some things sometimes feel wrong. Like if you're reading Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, you reach a climax, and then there's like this long period of like blandness before the end, and it just feels wrong. Usually that's a real quick ending. Same thing with many movies. If the reaches real high chase scene, and then bang, the big chase scene is over. The bank robbers are caught, and life is good again. And that's quick. It's only 5 minutes after that big thing. You don't want a long drawn out thing there. So in a wrestling autobiography, you don't necessarily have that. I mean, you're following someone's career, you're covering their career. You try to put in I try to put in a lot of dialogue and let you feel it and let you hear it, what's going on backstage in the locker room. But I don't necessarily intentionally listen for the stories and downplay some stories and then go in depth on a final story to really give you that climax and then that denouement, as they call it, the ending. I kind of report what I see and throw history in there, try to make it fun, show you how it ends, but this one I followed the format. I kind of played the hits. If you were an artist and you were to play that 40 top hit formula, that's sort of what I was doing. There's something else called too. If I know we have writers, so I try to throw some of this in here. There's something else called the Hero Quest, Hero's Journey. Basically, there was a guy named Joseph Campbell who used to go and listen to mythology of all different cultures around the world. Joseph Campbell eventually became the professor of George Lucas. So he was George Lucas, the guy who created Star Wars, as English teacher. And through his workings, George Lucas learned that Campbell had put together a formula called the Hero Quest. And basically it works like this. And you can listen and see if this pattern follows other type of movies in Hollywood and other stories. You have a hero in a happy place. Something happens and they're either forced or they're pitched or they choose to go into journey. After they take on this task or they enter this quest, there's a bunch of obstacles. And then there's like a smaller obstacle and a bigger obstacle and then a real big obstacle. And then finally the biggest thing, and you think they're not going to make it. And they have to kind of change the way they think or change their personality to make themselves adapt so they can beat this dragon, beat whatever it is. And then when they finally do that, they fix the quest and then they go back to the normal life. Usually normal life is a little bit better for many, or if not themselves, or sometimes they die, but the world is a better place after that quest is finished when they return back to the village or whatever. So that story, that formula, followed many cultures all over the world. Some people call it an archetype. There was a guy named Carl Jung that called this thinking, this programmed blueprint in people's heads, an archetype, meaning a pattern that cultures have for storytelling in their head, but are never taught this. And maybe a country in a small area in Africa that's nowhere near, an Eskimo area or something like that. They have very similar patterns. And the thought behind that is the archetype, that there's some kind of blueprint in our head that tells us to tell a story a certain way so that it makes sense to people. If you were to look at that pattern, the Hero Quest, which is one archetype, think about Shrek. Everyone knows the story of Shrek, right? Shrek's in his swamp. He's just chilling. Everything's cool. And all of a sudden, stuff goes crazy. All of the fairy tale guys are dropped off into the swamp. And he has to go, I think, get the princess, right? Or something for Lord Forthcloth. I don't know. I'm not remembering this all as well. But he has to go off and, Donkey goes with him. That's another part of the archetype. Usually the hero has like a sidekick or a person that helps him, or the hero has a wizard that may come and bring him wisdom. So you have a sidekick like a warrior and a wizard. So with Star Wars, you got Luke Skywalker, you have Han Solo, you have Ben Kenobi, and these guys go and they finally blow up the Death Star. They finally defeat the dragon or defeat Lord Forthcloth or whatever the hell his name is. And then they go back and then life's happy. And then, they're playing, Smash Mouth or whatever it is, which everyone loves. But yeah. So I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I hope that makes sense. That's the kind of thing that I did with Danny Davis. I didn't do that with a traditional autobiography, for the rest of the stuff that I did. So
do you think, reading that book, I was like, wow, this could actually be like a movie.
Yeah. And that's the idea. I plugged it into a movie format. I plugged it into the hits, you know what I mean? The hit formula. Have you tried
pitching it to like WWE or anything like that?
No, not really. Nothing like that. Basically, the idea was to have Danny last year. We were thinking about getting him going on some kind of, talk circuit and trying to get him up and going and talking about his book. And then if you can get one of these places to hit on this, like say Drew Barrymore's show decides to talk about it, I would have said Oprah back in the day, but I tried to be updated. And plus I love Drew Barrymore. Oh, I really love Drew Barrymore. But anyhow, if we could get one little show to talk about it, then bang, you sell a ton of them. And then the doors would open for him to have a new spark in his career, maybe in a different direction. You know what I mean? Inspirational speaker, author, personality type thing, something like that. So I do have another book proposal on the table right now, and I won't say who it is, but I'll tell you who it is off camera because I don't have it 100% set, but it's about 95%. I talked to the guy for about an hour yesterday, and it's going to be the same one of these. It's going to be like this if we do it. This guy had a little role, kind of like Danny Davis had a little spot in WWF. I don't want to say for a hot second. He was there for a couple years, right? Basically, Macho Man Randy Savage went to a play. I'll throw you some hints, but I'm not going to say the name. Macho Man Randy Savage went to a play, and he's looking up at the stage, and guys up there pulling this gimmick, and Savage's like, "Oh yeah, this guy's pretty good." And he goes over and talks to Vince McMahon. "Yeah, you got to see this guy. He's got this character. I think you should bring him in for prime time wrestling. Yeah, you should bring him in. He'd be kind of funny. Put him with Heenan or something like that. Yeah." So they bring this dude in, and he plays kind of a little role for a while, and he ends up managing a little bit and doing a couple of spots. Then he kind of goes out of the picture, but he kept on going. This guy was a comedian for a while. Then he had some issues with organized crime, and things got darker and darker and darker. And I'm not going to give any more away than that, but
sounds like Enzo Amore.
Yeah, it's someone like that. So, but anyhow, I said to the guy when we were talking about it, okay, so how are we going to do this? And it's the same kind of deal. Danny Davis didn't want a lot of wrestling, and this guy didn't have a lot of wrestling, but he had a cameo. Did a little spot here and there, did a couple little spots. And I said to him, what do we want? Do we want an inspirational book? Because I can write it any way. I could pull out all the good stuff and make it, overcoming obstacles. If you do the right thing, this is where you end up. Everything can be good. You can find the good side of anything if you want. If you're, I don't want to sound presumptuous. If you're a decent writer, if you're an experienced writer, you can look at a glass of water and you can describe the glass of water as being, tasty or half full or half empty or disgusting and gross just by the way you choose to describe it. And all of those ideas can be true. But I can pick out the fact that there's a smudge on the side of the glass. There's some lipstick on the top, maybe. There's some kind of speck of something. There's a booger on the rim. No one's going to want to drink this because it sounds disgusting because I sat and picked out all those details. Or, I can mention the fact that it's hot. It's real, horrible outside and dry and I'm thirsty as hell. And I look at that glass of water and, man, I couldn't drink that thing quick enough. So it's really how you choose the words. And I said to him, do we want an inspirational? Do we want to go with some type of memoir? And we end up saying this should be a fall from grace because the way that his life sounds like it went is he got in trouble with crime and borrowing from bad people and stuff got worse and worse and worse. And then at the end, there's a neat little loop that kind of circles it back around. And like his son is kind of now living what he should have lived and stuff is good. So I can choose to kind of like show like a Breaking Bad meets Sopranos type story out of this by focusing on those stories rather than focusing on the stuff that was good at the time. Focus on the bad. Focus on worse and worse and just spotlight the stuff that you want to. Almost the way that CNN edits. Oh, I shouldn't get political here. CNN edits their news stuff, or I could say Fox edits their stuff. They leave out this or to get an agenda across. It's the same type of thing, though. If you're a good writer, you can pick and choose what you want to show and create a story. And that's what I did with Danny Davis. Is I sort of created an arc sort of took key scenes to make it go in that realm. And I think I might do that with this guy. Yeah. So we're talking about making that happen. The other
how do you get people to open up to you and tell you like the truth, that's going to make them look bad?
Well, some of them, they have to want to begin with, but I remember with Vader, when I was doing Vader's book, one of the good ways to get that is to just be honest with them and say, now look, they know that you had an altercation with Paul Orndorff backstage at WCW. They've heard the story that he kicked you with the flip-flops. Some people say that you instigated. Some people say that he threw the first punch. We can leave it out because you don't want to talk about it. If you leave it out, here's what happens. Maybe they say you're too chicken to talk about it. And I'm not trying to pull like a Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox, you're yellow kind of situation and get them going. I say the realism behind it is they might say that you're too chicken to talk about it. That could be one thing that you'll get by not talking about it. Another move might be that if you don't talk about it, they could think that you're hiding something, that like you were at fault, and they'll call you out on it, or they'll give you bad reviews when the book come out, and then you'll sell less because of word of mouth. So it's best to really go honest. And if you felt you were in the wrong about some scene in a book or something like that, I might say to someone, this is your place to fix it. This is a place to say, I messed up, and now you're more human, and now people can relate to you more because they've all messed up in the past. And if most people are more willing to forgive, I think, if you own up to a problem rather than to skirt it and hide it, So I think that seems to work. I kind of give them my thoughts of what happens if they don't. And seems to work. Once we did that, he was more willing to talk about, I don't know if you remember, he powerbombed a jobber. Vader did, hurt a guy's back, Joe Thurman, I think his name was. And he explained the whole thing. And geez, you read it and you feel bad for Vader, even some, where you used to be people, say, oh, he's a bully, he broke the guy's back or whatever. When you read it, it said, excuse me, he went out there, he did the whole thing. He felt horrible. Dude was like crying, and Cactus comes over and Vader was, afraid to confront the guy. Didn't want to go over and see him because he was so upset. And it shows the human side of him, being afraid to go and approach the guy right after he hurt him. And they took him off to the ambulance right away. And then he was off to a show the next day, the opposite side of the country. So, it sounds sort of like I'm making an excuse for the guy, but it seemed to me when he was telling the story that there was realism behind his trepidation, I guess, going to talk to the guy that he almost crippled. The guy's okay, by the way, from what I understand. I don't think he's too happy about any of that, but he did finally come out of that. Sometime after, and I think he went on to be a police officer and did okay for himself with career and stuff. So, but I digress. Sometimes I go off in tangents like that.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I tell you, I thought the Danny Davis book was the probably one of the best wrestling books that I've read.
So could you tell me why you liked it though? See, again, I plugged it into a formula. Do you think now that I explained the formula that had a play on it? Or
maybe,
no?
Yeah, maybe. I guess I could see that. I mean, when you could, because the way that you did Brutus's book was, you had like his early life, and then it was a bunch of different short stories, basically, right?
Mostly. It was chronological. So we followed most of his career, very career oriented.
Yep.
I did try to put a little bit of him. He had his second marriage was mostly his real first marriage. He got married early, early on, and there was kind of a gold digger kind of feel to that marriage. It didn't last long. It might have been a year long. It was just bad.
Yep.
So that got kind of canceled. And then years later, he met up with what her name, I believe, is Barbie Leslie, and she was was with him for some time. They had a kid, and eventually that kind of fell apart. They didn't go so well. They kind of went their separate ways, kind of thing, but still were married for a while. And then eventually they broke up, and he ended up with the woman he's with now. And there's a little bit of like he feels like he made the right decision and finally got out of a bad relationship, and you know, and that type of thing, you know, and got out of depression at the same time, almost kind of a bad relationship that was making him have some mental health issues and all, and which might have led to some, you know, drug issues and other problems. So, yeah. So, but I mean, that's not real. That's very true life. There wasn't necessarily a bang, bang, you know what I mean? But there's a little bit of that there too.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah. I don't know what maybe because I like the length of it. Maybe because I like.
I read quick. Yeah. That was
you know what else helps is that I know that town that Danny grew up in is right next door to me.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So, like, maybe that's why. Maybe
was there anything in the town that I got right? Because I didn't do a whole lot of research on the town, but I think I threw a couple street names in.
You pretty much described it perfectly. That's why
cool. All right.
I could, like, picture, I mean, that scene in the book of him, like, trying to steal a Christmas tree. I mean,
okay.
How could that not be how is that not, like, the opening scene of a movie?
Yeah, it's cool, right? So, just for the fans that don't know that, basically, I mean, the way that Danny tells it's like this. He says, "Oh, you know, when I was a kid, I wasn't living at home. I was living in the basement, and we didn't have a Christmas tree. So one Christmas, I just went out and I just stole one and I brought it home. You know, and that was the story. And I'm like, dude, we could open the book with that, and your 5 sentences could be 10 pages. It could be awesome,
right?
You know, and if you." Not to give too much away from this, but you know, the artist doesn't want to really give all of the, you know, ideas behind that. But I mean, there's a moment in there where he's stealing the tree or stealing decorations or something off someone's lawn, and he looks into a rich house, and the guy looks out at him and has a moment where he could go after the person, but realizes if a person's stealing decoration, they're probably worse off than him. And you know, maybe Danny sees his reflection in the glass. There was a whole like moment there that was definitely Hollywood. It wasn't necessarily how it went. Danny said probably did go that way, but he can't remember much of that. So I might have embellished a paragraph or two there for the English teachers that want that symbolism or want to say, well, that symbolizes that the life inside of the window could have been his life, but he wasn't on the right side of the wall, you know, right side of the fence, kind of stuff like that. And then an English teacher could talk about that with kids and talk about income and you know, social class and stuff like that. So there's a couple little places here and there where I would sprinkle in the English teacher bullshit. And that's what that was. But it makes for a better story. You know what I mean? And I think Dusty Rhodes once said, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Right. So that's what I was doing.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was entertaining. Let's see. I was surprised to read he was kind of a thug kid back in the day. Interesting to see his progression. Yeah, I was kind of. So he lives in a farm now. Is that what happened? Is that what he's doing now?
Well, he's not there now, but he was there at the end of the book.
Okay.
You know, and again, part of that, and that's true. We chose to end it there, was him looking back and saying, you know, I left WWE, I left everything. And now I'm sitting here and I'm shoveling shit. That's like the worst thing you could do is go from traveling around the world,
I know,
right? Having people cheer and scream for you. Now everything's quiet. You're all to yourself. It's the dead opposite, and you're shoveling cow shit, right? I did that to try to show, you know, extremes, polarities, you know, and but he was okay with it because he was there trying to make money for family, trying to get back his son, you know what I mean? And I think at the end he had gotten custody of his son. And that isn't the end of where he was when I was talking to him, but that's the moment I chose to end the story at so I could get that arc.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So
no, it was good. I thought it was
you know the story that I like the most in there. Do you remember the sled story? Anything about a sled? So he was in a detention center.
Oh yeah. Oh, when yes.
Yeah, this is great.
With his brother, right?
Yeah. Both him and his brother got stuck in a detention center at the same time. And Danny Davis tells the story like this. He's like, and then the whole time I'm in there, I'm building this sled, and I'm just building it, and then one day we went down the hill, and I flipped the sled over the fence, and we ran up the sled and we took off. And I mean, that was basically the story. And I'm like, that's hysterical if you really build it up. So to make that funny, you have to kind of like draw out, but don't tell what the purpose of this is like, oh, I need to work on this sled and I'm doing this. And it's like, it's very calculated. Like, oh, please, Mr. Guard, let me have some more wood or some wax for the sled. And then all the kids can use it and they can have fun. And the kids that are good deserve this in here. We've done so much. And then they go up and they test the sled and the kids they're having fun on it and this and that. And then finally, the moment of calculation comes, of the master plan comes to fruition. Him and his kid brother, he grabs his kid brother, one more time down the hill, please, guard. They're like, yes. He goes down, flips this sled that they calculated how tall it would be over the fence, run up the fence, run out, and the guards are like, oh, God. They're like flicking him off in the distance because they know they can't get him, and they watch him escape. So, I turned that into like a Three Stooges scene almost, that's my favorite scene. That's my favorite scene in the book.
That was good. Did he, he must've made a decent amount of money when he was when he was in because he was there for a long time, right?
I think, and he did all kinds of stuff too,
Yeah. So did he waste his money, or did he have money? Was he in a good financial?
A lot of the old timers just didn't, they didn't plan for some of it. I think that might have been some of it. And I mean, it wasn't there forever, but he did ref for a long time. He ref for a long time. The wrestler spot wasn't that long. But before that, when he started out, he started by putting up chairs. Then they asked him, hey, do you want to work for us? You help put up the ring. Then it became taking over, driving the rings around. He became ring crew, the head of the ring crew. Then he became like head of merchandise for WWE, which sounds like huge. But at the time, T-shirts might be selling a little bit. It was more selling the programs and stuff like that. So he started doing that. After the programs and this and that, I think he became referee eventually, and then he learned how to wrestle. So he would ref and wrestle both at the same time to save money for the company. He became an agent for Andre the Giant. He had a lot of roles. And then he went back to reffing some. And then, as we kind of alluded to, he eventually left the business because of issues with family, where he needed to take custody of his son from a strange wife. And he did that. And while it was a huge step backwards for him, and he had to probably pay tons of legal bills, so that might be kind of the answer to your question. He got custody of his son, and then stuff was good, and it was bittersweet at the end. Like I said, he was shoveling the shit. I'm giving a lot of the book away here.
Don't give too much of the book away.
Yeah.
But did he enjoy the doing it? Did he enjoy? Was it cathartic for him to do it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I hope people check it out. Get a chance to pick it up. It's not that expensive. It's a cheaper book. It's like $10-15. I think there's an ebook of it too. You can get on Amazon. Read there.
Yeah.
But if you want the autograph deal, a lot of collectors here, I would go to dangerousdannydavis.com, and that's the place where you can get the autograph version. And collectors is big now with all the autograph and constantly. Remember when we did COVID Con, we couldn't even really figure out how to do a live signing. Now every night there's 10, 20 live signings.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I just saw one as we were coming out. Boogeyman is signing with somebody. It's like, and I don't get that. Between you and me, like, if I wanted an autograph, the old school thought behind it, I don't know if this has changed now. It seems like maybe it has, but the old school thought is you met the guy, and the autograph was symbolic of meeting the guy.
Right.
So, and if the guy's dead, I can understand, collecting an autograph from somebody via purchase and hoping that it's a real signature of something, because you'll never meet that guy. But for people that are running out to grab I wouldn't grab an autograph of someone I didn't meet, because I try to use the autograph to show that I met and that's the old school, I think, mentality between that.
Yeah,
that should be the first agenda. These days, it doesn't seem like that's the case. People are just like, I'll see him autograph in a picture, and that's good for me. I want the autograph. They're just collecting the idea of the scribble, which feels like cheating to me, but to each his own, right?
Yeah.
If you're watching this in replay, or if you're watching this now and you think I'm wrong, feel free to chime in. You're wrong, but feel free to chime in anyhow.
So, well, no, that was good. Like I said, I thought it was a great book. I even had my wife read it too.
Oh yeah, cool. You know what? Danny says that. He says everyone comes up to him and they say they love it. You know, they really thought it was cool book. You know, and he's
now what is he doing now? What is he doing now? Is he?
He's mostly retired, just doing a lot of appearances. I don't think just has happening. I don't think he's like a barista at a Starbucks. If you're asking,
no, I mean, like, would he be doing the different shows? If
yeah, he would be probably. He'd be doing the circuit, and you know, a lot of these guys, and we've alluded to this in other shows, even more so now than ever, because of Comic Cons and because of the idea of what we just talked about, fans wanting the signature, not caring necessarily if they, meet the guy or not. These guys are making a ton off of autograph signings, be it now virtual or then Comic-Con kind of, situation. And some of the wrestlers, I think, have such a rejuvenated boost in their careers that they're making, as much, maybe sometimes, if not more, than when maybe they had a little run in WWE in 15 Minutes of Fame. There's some random guys out there that really had a spotlight on them for, a hot minute. And now they can run the Comic Cons for who knows when this burst will end. And, bring in $500,000, $1,200 a weekend if they can find enough of these, which they seem to be everywhere. They seem to be doing. I mean, you look at some of these virtual signings now, man, they're pulling out some really random names that I haven't thought of in forever. That's awesome.
No, it's good. I can't wait for the shows. I guess they're doing public shows now, right? Like actual shows.
You mean wrestling shows?
Yeah.
I think
I saw those one in Nashville where I think Brutus and Valentine are going to be there.
Okay.
I don't know when.
Are you talking a Comic-Con show or
like a Comic-Con?
I think some of those are starting to come back a little bit, but they have to be careful how they do it, and everyone has to follow the guidelines. You have to have 6 feet apart and masks. And
oh, really?
There's still a lot of that. I mean, so for the people that don't know, I'm also
you're going to pay $100 to get your picture taken with somebody, and you're both wearing a mask.
It sucks. But I see him like there's a place locally in Albany, a place called Heroes Hideout. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. So that guy's like 10 minutes from me. He's my neighbor, actually, Steve Duckett. Usually the wrestlers break the kayfabe a little bit when they get the picture taken. They take the mask off. There are very few that leave the mask on for the picture, and plus they're both facing this way, so I guess the risk of that is not as high. But I do worry a little bit. Like when I see these, I'm like, dude, Jake the Snake, is old.
Yeah,
he's awesome, but he's old. So you would guess with the health problems he had, maybe just a few short years ago before DDP helped polish him up again.
Yeah.
If he breathed in some COVID air, who knows if he would have made it, Yeah. So when I see some of the pictures, I'm like, I cringe a little bit because it's nothing to joke about, the COVID and stuff like that. So I never went public with having it. Still haven't, but I might have had it already. So, we'll talk about that later. But it's nothing to mess around with. It sucked.
Well, hopefully everyone will have the vaccine, I guess, or whatever version that they want.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But will you get it? Will you get it?
Will I get what?
Will you get the vaccine? Comes your way? I'm scheduled to get it. I'm a teacher. I kind of have to.
My wife got it.
Oh, she did? All right. What? Anything happened?
She grew a tail. Other than that, she's she's fine.
She grew a tail.
She got the second shot. Didn't have no side effects.
So let me tell you about. Some people called this individual my alter ego. Back when I was doing a lot of wrestling managing, there was another character that looked a lot like me, except she was female. Her name was Kendra Casanova. A lot of people just said it was me wearing a wig and my wife's green prom dress, but that was not the case at all. Kendra is actually my sister, half sister, twice removed. But Kendra Casanova actually got COVID. And as I talked to Kendra about all of the different things that happened, she didn't have it so bad. She had kind of a mild flu version of COVID. And what happened is there was a guest starring symptom every couple of days. One day there was a little dizziness. One day, more sleepy. Another day, congestion in the chest, not being able to breathe so well. And in the end, she said that she lost all of her sense of smell and taste. And this is legit. I'm not really joking here. Kendra really went through this stuff. And she says that she still can't smell. And this was back around Christmas time that she got the COVID, but she still can't smell. The taste kind of came back, but when she walks in the house, if her wife is cooking pot roast, her wife. Okay, yeah, so she's in the LGBTQ. I just outed her. She comes in cooking pot roast, you can't smell it at all, right? And she did say this though, that like with the taste, certain things didn't work. Like when you brush your teeth, you couldn't taste the toothpaste. It felt like mush. She said, mint didn't register. Hot sauce didn't barely register. So she could eat garlic, or she could take shots of Tabasco, and it really wouldn't do much unless you took a lot of Tabasco, right? So the tongue in your mouth, it wouldn't really burn, right? Now the tongue in your butt, that would burn the next morning. Believe me, it would. If you took extra hot sauce on your food, at least that's what she said anyhow. So I just thought I'd give you her experience with COVID, because I personally haven't had it. So I can only really go by with what Kendra had. So I work with a lot of ladies that would be very afraid if they heard that I had COVID.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, if I were to ever get it, I probably wouldn't mention that I had it. So.
No, I hear you. It's like, you might as well have the leprosy.
Yeah. I'm a good guest, man. I am a good guest. I should come on once in a while.
You should.
I don't know why you don't let me on, but
I know. All right, Kenny, that's gonna wrap it up for tonight. Hopefully, next week. Well,
so where can they buy your stuff?
I don't have any stuff, so.
Oh, okay. Well, you can get my stuff at wohw.com.
Wait, and what does it stand for again?
It stands for Walking on Hot Waffles.
Right.
That's it. Walking on Hot Waffles.
Do you have shirts at all?
Shirts?
Yeah, like Walking on Hot Waffle shirts of a
that's
guy.
A good idea. I could throw it
like,
up.
I picture like the waffles, like a Belgian waffle with like the smoke coming up, and you only see like the barefoot, maybe from like the knee down of like somebody barefoot walking across.
So you've seen our logo though, right? Or no? Can you remember it? Maybe probably can't. Is there a way for me to do a screenshot here? No, I can do that in Google Meets. I don't know how to do it on here. But basically, our logo.
I see the foot. Yep, I'm looking.
Yeah, it's a waffle. It's like a waffle, and you see like the toes like standing on the waffle. So it's a close-up shot of it, so you kind of see the corner of the waffle, and you see like the toes. And there's a couple different versions of it, sort of like MTV has different versions of their logo. There's a few different ones. Basically, it looks like that, though. But I like your idea. Maybe I should. I don't know if anyone would buy our publishing press logo on a shirt, but why not?
If it was cool, they would.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. Help me come up with a design. We'll put it up.
All right. Cool. All right, Kenny. That's going to wrap it up. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Funky Fresh.